COVID-19 restrictions might have put a damper on networking and investor pitching sessions for startups over the past year, but some are finding value in investing in startups during this time. They're turning to crowdfunding too to do this. Lim Xiaohui, who's the Director of Startup Development at Enterprise Singapore, joins us live for more on this topic. Thanks for joining us. It's been a difficult time for many during this pandemic, but why is it still important to continue investing in startups?
Eugenia, thank you for inviting Enterprise Singapore onto this show. Now, firstly, maybe let me first define what we mean by startups. These are companies that are young. They are not subsidiaries of corporate entities. And most importantly, they possess innovative technologies that can help them to grow very quickly. Now, startups are very important because they add value by bringing new ideas to the market. You know, as we come out from this crisis, businesses need to transform, and this really requires innovation. And few sectors actually epitomize this sort of spirit rather than our startups. And they form the bedrock of our innovation economy, because in turn they create jobs and contribute to the economy. So therefore they are important for us to invest into them.
Well, let's talk about crowdfunding. That's one of the ways to tap into capital, apart from the rest of the ways like loans, grants, and incubator programs. How does crowdfunding play into the Singapore ecosystem?
Yeah. Let us frame this crowdfunding in your question into this concept of fundraising by startups. And in Singapore, we support startups through financial and non-financial means. Much of our program actually can be found on our Startup SG website. Generally, at the very early stage, it takes the form of grants. But after that, the co-investment scheme kicks in to catalyze what we call smart money from venture capital firms or angel investors. Now, such fundraising or smart money is what it means literally, money that's invested by people with experts and knowledge. And it is actually an important source of capital for startups for growth as they build out their businesses. And investors are not an organization that just provides capital. They provide mentorship, advice, strategic linkages for startups to expand their plans. So Enterprise Singapore helps startups in this aspect through the programs such as Startup SG Equity, administered through the investment vehicles such as Seeds Capital and SG Innovate. We co-invest with more than 40 appointed VCs into deep tech startups. And through this scheme, we have catalyzed over 560 million in private sector funding from 2016 to 2020. And our Deputy Prime Minister Heng had announced last year an additional $300 million into Startup SG Equity, so as to catalyze even more monies that can be invested into deep tech startups. Now, in Singapore, the number of venture capitalists has been growing in strength, and we currently have more than 200 VC firms here in Singapore. And in 2020, despite the very challenging economic conditions, investors are still actively deploying capital in Southeast Asia, especially in Singapore. So there are opportunities for startups to gain access to such smart monies to help them to grow their businesses. Yeah.
Right, Xiaohui, what about the World Bank report that was launched today? It states that Singapore's startup system has a ripple effect on Southeast Asia. And yet it also highlights that there's rising regional competition. Now, what is Singapore doing to strengthen its leading position in the region?
Actually, I think it's important for us to look at it from growth opportunity rather than a competition mindset. The Southeast Asia is one of the fastest growing market worldwide. So areas such as the agri-tech will really help us in ensuring that there's sustainable food production to meet the growing demand. Another area is, for example, the changing demographic and the rising urban population, which also means that the digital economy has gained tremendous momentum. So all these are opportunities. And as a city-state, Singapore is very small. Connectivity to all these regional and global nodes are very important so as that companies, our startups can achieve scale. So we will continue to help the startups to connect to these innovation hubs around the world through the Global Innovation Alliance. Currently, we're working with 11 accelerators in 15 cities, innovation cities around the world, and we intend to grow that number. We will also advocate an open innovation approach so that as a region, we can attract more global investments here. We do this both at the G2G level as well as the corporates, with the corporates as well. So for example, Enterprise Singapore launched the inaugural Southeast Asia Open Innovation Challenge recently, with wide-ranging challenge statements across the Southeast Asia conglomerates such as the Thailand's Central Group, Malaysia's Sunway Group, as well as Vietnam's BNG Cloud. And all these are to create opportunities for our startups.
All right, thank you, Lim Xiaohui, who's the Director of Startup Development at Enterprise Singapore.